Live streaming and we are recording. Good morning, world. I come to you from San Francisco today. Welcome to Michelle Hoffmann's Liner Notes, Advice That Matters. Today's guest is Beth Chesterton, and Beth inspires leaders and those they lead to optimum levels of performance by helping them discover and unleash their genius to accomplish the extraordinary. Welcome to Liner Notes. Liner Notes are the insight the artist or curator offers into what's really going on at the time of creation and what inspired that recording, that masterpiece, to be what it really is. Michelle Hoffmann's Liner Notes is imperative insight and curated wisdom you need to inspire you to unblock your potential. In a changing world, you can find your unique path to create balance and enjoy an abundant life with all the resources you need. I'm Michelle Hoffmann. I help business owners and CEOs focus on your zone of genius, reduce the overwhelm, giving you more time to do what you love, and increase your income by helping your managers manage with certainty to develop high-performing teams that meet the revenue goals, making success inevitable. Discover how I can help you and your company succeed at lightthesparklady@gmail.com. And we'll have the link below. And for a free copy of the new management blueprint, just go ahead and go to my link and you can see how you can download a free copy at lightthesparklady.com. So again, today I welcome Beth Chesterton. You are going to be very, very excited to hear all of the empowerment that she can share with you today. Beth, thank you for joining us. And will you tell us a little bit about the clients that come to you and how you help them succeed?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you. And I love your introduction.
Okay.
Incredible. What I do is something called the Ignite Method, which is really about inspiring performance and inspiring optimum levels of performance rather than managing performance. I've spent my career working in some of the greatest organizations in the world and working with amazing leaders who are under an incredible amounts of pressure to bring their teams to accomplish the extraordinary, truly. And so I created a method called the Ignite Method, which it's really about creating transformation in really quick bursts. And it's about discovering who you are at your best, which I call your genius. So when I look at you, Michelle, what you were doing, I call that going pro. It's how somebody can go from being, they're talking and we're always compelling or repelling at all times on a microscopic sort of level. And if you think about you, when you go pro, when somebody hears you do your introduction, you're like, holy cow, she's got it. And then I find myself spending time with clients trying to figure out what is it? Why is it that anybody who's listening to Michelle will buy whatever the hell she's selling? What is it about Michelle? How do we break that down and understand it in a way that we can intentionally call up for it when we need it?
Lovely, lovely.
Okay.
So can you share some client stories with us of, some of the challenges that they have faced and what has happened after working with you? What's their dream come true?
Okay, so a great client that I've been honored enough to work with is a woman who's a young CEO. And when I say young, I don't necessarily mean she's younger than I am. She's got little kids. She's created an incredible culture in her organization. She has phenomenal clients. She's extremely talented, and the people she hires are talented. She's also really busy because while her clients love the people who work for her, they also want more of her, because when you're with her, you want more of her. She's extraordinary. So she said, can you help me develop my team and make this the best place they could ever work? Help them discover what it is they really want so that they can go for it, and that the work they're doing here is part of their journey, that it really can be developing them for their future, that their desired future. So we worked together, and we've been working together for about 1.5 years. And it was easy to work with her because they're a high performance team. And her direct reports are amazing. But here's the deal. You can't see yourself without the help of others.
Right.
But here you have the leader who's overworked, and not to the extent of diminishing returns, but she's got a lot of responsibility, especially now in 2020. And how can we help those leaders develop their teams to optimum levels of performance? And really, it's about being with somebody and seeing and noticing what it is they're doing that's extraordinary and growing that.
Sometimes the skills that we have are so intrinsic to who and what we are that we don't even think of them as skills because they come to us so naturally. And like you were saying, it's so interesting when you get someone to reflect to you what those highlights are, what those strengths are. And with my clients, I talk about stretching your strengths and strengthening your weaknesses for proper balance. But oftentimes we don't even know our superpowers, our strengths, because it's like, well, of course I've got two arms and I know how to use them. You were born with these amazing intrinsic skills, and you don't necessarily see that they are something that other people don't have. That doesn't come naturally to you, so having someone to reflect like that actually shines a light on it. It's such a big gift that you're giving to people.
First of all, I love what you say about stretching strengths and about how strengths and weaknesses, they're attached, right? Every strength is attached to weakness and vice versa. But I love what you're saying, and a term that I've used a lot is unconscious competence. And I used to say it comes as naturally as breathing. And now that we know breathing is no longer breathing is a luxury, right? And a privilege. But this notion, I believe that you can be given feedback in this thing that comes so naturally to you, and people dismiss it as a compliment. They dismiss it as meaningless, not getting that, holy cow, what we're talking about right here is the thing. And you're so busy worrying about substance and developing more substance, and you're missing the fact that maybe it's how you're connecting with somebody that's everything. Yes, you have to have good substance. We know you do. But the unending quest for substance, instead of just realizing sometimes just being right here with the person is the magic.
Right. Another thing you were talking about is that, clients need you when they're busy taking care of everyone and everything, not only personally at home with the kids, with the family, balancing work-life balance that's happening all at once in the living room under the current life conditions, if they're working remotely. And also then all of the demands of making success inevitable with their employees, as you were pointing out, really identifying the spark to what their ultimate goals and desires and wishes are in life, so that whatever efforts that they put forward are in alignment with the success of the mission and vision of the business, so that every action is aligned, again, making it easy to hit the revenue and performance goals, because everything's lined up so cleanly. But when you're busy taking care of everyone and everything, you're like, who's taking care of me? How do these people how do you know, oh, I need to add one more thing onto my plate by finding this Ignite method? How, it's like, what is that?
With that, I love everything you said. I think almost it could just stand alone, right? What you just said is so powerful. But I think the notion that you can outsource this element of helping you inspire your team to higher levels of performance is exciting. It doesn't all have to rest on the shoulders of the leader. And that you can also, like with leaders, it's interesting when you figure out sort of their strengths, their weaknesses, and you realize, how can I help that leader operate at their fullest capacity and sort of create an environment that can allow for it. So I had one client who gives rapid fire feedback. Sometimes it would scorch, right? Because this person is so honest and so transparent and so direct. And actually it's a gift. But can you create, and I found you can, a culture where everybody feels so understood, seen, and appreciated, that rapid fire feedback is seen as a gift and not the criticism that it can feel like when you don't have the culture that can support it.
Absolutely true. Culture is key in feeling safe enough to take the risks, to do what it takes to really push things forward
And
quickly.
we don't want, like, I don't know if you, let's say golf. You know, if you ever have an instructor who's teaching you and they're telling you to do this and that and move this way and that way, and suddenly for me, I paralyze. I don't know what to do. Rather than somebody saying, I like what you do naturally. Now, could you just follow through all the way with your shot or your swing? That's what I think we want to do with leaders is notice what they do naturally so they can do more of it. That's
Right.
highly effective. And rather than, don't do this, don't do this. And I do think a lot of consultants spend a lot of time telling you what not to do. And I think it doesn't need to be that complicated.
When we're told what not to do, it creates the space of, it creates a vacuum. Now I know what not to do. Tell me what to do, as you were saying. It's like, okay, naturally flowing in the right direction. And I call it for a big mindset shift, for example, I'm like, sometimes you just need a one click pivot. It's not a big thing. Just shift one little click. Just do the follow through all the way, and you're going to see how much further you can get the ball to go, for example. Beth, how did you come to this experience and expertise to helping people like this? What's your story?
Well, I've spent my career, I was lucky enough as a young woman. I got a master's degree in human and organizational development because it captured my attention, and not everything did. Like some of the classes did not capture my attention. And I was lucky enough to go work at Citibank at the time, was the largest bank in the world, and they spent millions and millions of dollars on developing leaders. And I learned at a young age, wow, this is important work. And by the way, there are certain things we can do that really do help accelerate people's ability to move to, much higher levels of performance quickly. And so I just spent my career working in organizations with people, great teams, leaders, and being a partner with them. And how do we get people communicating better? How do we help leaders see what it is they're doing that works? How do we course correct when need be? And how do we do it in a way that inspires people? So I just spent my life working with people, and it's been a tremendous honor.
You definitely have had those 10,000 hours to become an expert at developing people, and then also reflecting to them what their power their power potential can be. That's amazing. Amazing. And clearly
Well, it's been great time. It's been a great privilege. And I know you've done that too. So working with people is extraordinary because every single person's different. But one of the things that seems universal is not really getting what it is you have that makes you extraordinary, and knowing that people need a partner to help them see themselves. And we often listen to the wrong people. We listen to the people who are our critics. And it isn't that we don't need to learn something from them, but so often there are people who are afraid of you being your fullest and most expressed self. They want to keep you small. And sometimes we're listening to those people, and they're in our heads. And they're in our heads when we're standing and presenting, and when we're leading groups, even by Zoom. They're in our heads. When in fact, what do we want in your head? Nothing. We want you fully present to what's happening. You know?
I have, so professionally, sometimes if you have a manager who does that, I call them eucalyptus managers, because eucalyptus trees drop this oil that prevents anything from growing underneath them. You do not want to work for a eucalyptus manager. You have, I've seen it. I can see in your face.
Oh, that's genius. I'm telling you, you should write a book. Oh, I'm sorry. You've written in the last 12 months, I think. My God. If you want to get anything done, call Michelle Hoffmann. She's the opposite of a eucalyptus.
Right. And then the other thing, I imagine that people have like this adorable little monster. It has to be adorable or people wouldn't keep it around. And one of my clients called it FOBU. So it has a cute little name.
Interesting.
And FOBU is when you are changing your behavior based on what you think someone else might be thinking about you.
That is so perfect. Yes.
And you can't be changing for what you think other people might think.
And how often are we wrong? And you see this a lot, especially with young managers too, where they'll think they've just bombed everything. And in fact, they just hit the ball out of the park and they don't know it. And they're reading. I have somebody who was working with me, and she said, we had a meeting with a client. She said, that was a bomb. That person hated everything. And the client called like 3 days later and said, I loved everything. But the person processed differently, processed internally. doesn't
Right.
wear all their emotions on their face. So we just misread it all the time, and we're calibrating and undermining what we have and what we don't.
Right. We don't want to get stuck in imposter syndrome. Like in the example you were saying, it's like she gave it her best, but then she realized every like nook and cranny that could have gone better. Whereas what the client was hearing was all of the opportunity. And the client was able to receive the big messages. And that's all the client needed to know you've got the skills to help me get where I want to go. Hired. So this is awesome. Beth, you were talking about the Ignite method, and I am so curious. I really want to know more. Will you speak to that? Like, give us some of your tips and tools and your best tricks.
Okay, so the Ignite method is a very simple method, and it was created in the beginning of 2020 after an aha moment in January, when we had a room full of women in this time, packed room. We had 55 minutes to make something happen, and we were talking about their strengths. And everybody walked in one mood. I think it was a Monday morning, about 8:30, and they left in a completely different place, very inspired. We were all, as you know, when we're in the terrain of what it is that you do when you're at your best, you, Michelle, who goes pro like nobody's business, you should really be on video at all times. You do live because it's positively contagious. When you're at your best, it brings me up. When you're exploring who you are at your best, I catch it. And in fact, it can be caught over Zoom. It's crazy. And
Yeah.
it's the slightest shift, what you were talking about before. So I realized in this late January moment, this can happen in 55 minutes. It's like a workout. So I created these workouts, and then the pandemic hit. And so I thought, what can I do to help? As we all know, it was a really frightening time. What can I do to help? And so I started doing the Ignite method. I did over 50 sessions with people all over North America, a couple of people in Europe. And I saw I didn't know in the beginning, during a pandemic, is this right? And I saw people coming back over and over again to get a dose of this so they could go face the world and perform at their best. Whether that meant being on the front lines, whether it meant taking care of entire organizations filled with people, whether it meant for some people sitting at home, which was really hard for
Yeah.
people to do. So I saw that it worked. So the Ignite method is, it consists of the match, was exploring what it is you do when you're at your best. What are your unfulfilled aspirations? What are your unrealized strengths? Then there's sparks. Sparks happen when we're in these conversations. And then we get into full fires, glows. What's the glow look like? And it's when we're really reflecting on what it is we do. And then there's a torch, which is about carrying it forward to others. So the Ignite method is available in different ways depending on what you're up to.
That's awesome. So let me see if I got it. You match, what is it you're doing when you are at your best? Sparking the fire to.
Well, sparks happen when we're in these conversations. For me right now, Michelle, being with you, having this conversation is creating sparks. When we're finished with this, I can go up and work on a project that I might have avoided. I might have instead rearranged emails, but you have inspired me to want to go do something exciting. Those are sparks. And fire is, we all know what fire feels like. It feels really good. It's when we're making things happen. And then, but with the Ignite method, this is happening all the time. But what we want to do, we found out through research on inspiration, and I know you know this, you can summon inspiration.
Absolutely.
So one thing I learned interesting about inspiration recently is that when authors who are inspired, when they write a book and then we read it, if they're inspired when they write it, we are more inspired when we read it. Wow.
Right. So that's what you were saying. It's like that glow gets, or the fire, the glow gets moved forward to the person you're reflecting that with. And then they're then lit up and ignited to, become, they're impassioned to go do that as well.
Think of it, I agree. That's it. And so often in organizations, as we know, if you've been in organizations, there's this managing performance and these mandatory meetings to manage performance that fall flat. They're not inspiring at all. What we're learning, and I know you know too, is how about inspiring performance? And it's pretty easy. It can happen in little bitty bursts of inspiring people to higher levels. So
So
that's
that
what the Ignite
light
method.
bulb, the aha moment, it's the why. Here's the why I got up this morning. I have previous people who reached out to me just out of the blue to tell me, you helped me determine what I was going to be in my life, my dream job, in the interview. And you hired me anyway. And
Yes.
I want to thank you because then you gave me the skills I need to ultimately get my dream job. And throughout my entire career, I had less than 2% turnover if you don't count promotions within the organization. Because once you figure out what the why is for people, instead of being burnt out and wondering, God, why do I have to get out of bed today? It's that, oh, today I get up and do this.
By the way, that's available to us. It's right here. Have you noticed the difference between when you're turned off and you're turned on? Sometimes it can be the littlest thing that
Right.
gets you into that place you're talking about. And here's what I think. I think you see a lot with women: humility. I'm not really making that great of an impact. When in fact, when they understand the impact they're making, it's inspiring to continue to make more of an impact.
And sometimes you need that reflected to you to actually even get an idea of that you're really making that impact. When people are going through their daily lives, they might be doing this without realizing it at all. But what kind of obstacles do people run into when they're doing this business or they're managing performance instead of inspiring it? What kind of challenges are people facing when they don't have someone to reflect like this?
Well, when you think about it, how often when people don't have this, I find that they are experiencing a lot of resistance. So, an example is a client, a really dazzling young woman who was just looked over for a promotion. She was so bummed. And then she participated in the Ignite Method process. And at the end of a couple of weeks later, she was promoted to something she hadn't even ever dreamt of.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
because she showed up differently. Her bitterness and resentment was out the window because she was ticked. The person who got the job wasn't as qualified as she was. She was upset. She'd been killing herself for the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Then suddenly, when that went away and she started just showing up more fully, guess what? She had the opportunity to get a major opportunity promotion. And in fact, then for the 2020, she was in a major leadership role. And it was great that she was there for the team beneath her. I think also people underestimate sometimes relationships. So they'll be so on task. Let's say they're presenting, and there's so much focus on the task and what it is they're presenting that they're forgetting to relate and how powerful relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get them out of just being in task, focusing on the other person while focusing on the task, that you notice that they can make a greater impact. They sell more, they connect more, land more. Innovation also, I see that teams can be stuck, and then suddenly innovation, like you just mentioned, the spark's going to appear, and innovation will start skyrocketing.
And to develop innovation within an organization really requires an understanding of the talent that you've got within your team, as well as a need that can be filled. Super simple example, I was the director of a customer relations department, and I was talking to the sales team, and they weren't hitting the numbers. And I'm like, well, can my team help? And they were like, yeah, your team can't help. They're processing orders. And I'm like, no, my team actually has a deep understanding of the product and the service. And we talk to the customers all day long. So then I asked my team, I'm like, do you want to do sales? And they were like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, but these are your friends that are calling in every day. You know them by now because you've built relationships with them over time. Oh yeah. I'm like, would you be willing to let an orthopedic office know that if they're buying total knee replacement booklets, that we also have after total knee replacement booklets and exercise tear sheets to increase the recovery and understanding for the patient? Would you be just let your friends know? They're like, oh yeah. I'm like, cross-selling. And we have like quantity discounts. If they're close to a discount, just would you be willing to tell your friends who call you every day that, if you buy a few more, you can get 1% off? And they were like, well, yeah, we could do that. Upselling. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I said, just keep track. Let's keep track our cross-selling and upselling and the incremental difference that we make, which ended up being $1 million a year over year for 11 years.
But it wasn't selling.
No, no, shh, not so. They were just
Incredible story. That is an incredible story.
right.
So there's
And
playfulness about you, the way you approach complex business problems.
yeah, right. Oh, you have to, I can come up with a game to play no matter what it is.
I believe we made $1 million in sales and we didn't even know we were selling. We're just
Yeah, we were just chatting with our friends. Hey, just building awareness.
right.
Yeah, and that's, then it's organic and they're doing what they already know and love, and that's relationship building, and that's what they wanted to do. We did the same thing. Product development at the time was having a hard time getting through the gatekeeper to talk to the customer to see what product they needed next. And I'm like, the customers are calling me all day long. What do you want to know? Give me one question. So I'm like, okay. So I go and I'm like, hey, you guys, when you talk with, this specific target market, would you mind asking one extra question? They're like, okay. And the matter of 4 hours, I had thousands of dollars of market research. It's like my team is like the treasure of the whole organization.
And what do you think that was about? Okay, I'm certain it was a great team. You'd selected well, but it's about you believing it's possible and going for it and trying something new. I mean, there's so many, we could deconstruct it and be really fun. That's what I think is really fun. When you have high performance, why? What's happening? How can we replicate that?
Yeah, it's super fun. I worked with a small freestanding medical clinic, this really brilliant owner. She couldn't figure out why her turnover was high. So she reached out to me and hired me. And I knew why her turnover was high. I also knew it was really hard to do business with her business. And so I had my own motive on this, and I brought a ball of yarn to a workshop. And I'm like, you're the customer, you stand in the middle of the room, hold this ball of yarn. How would people even know about your business? She's like, we have a website. I'm like, who manages the website? No one, no one, no one. I'm like, okay, does anyone even seen the website? One person, I've seen it. Throw the ball of yarn to her. Okay, so now there's, one connection from the business owner to the woman who has seen the website. And I'm like, can somebody become a client on the website? Oh, no, no, no. Okay, throw the ball of yarn back to the owner who's pretending to be the prospect at this point. And I'm like, what did they learn by being on the website? What could they learn? Oh, our phone number. I'm like, okay.
Now
So,
we're talking.
right now we're talking. Now you have to, during business hours, have the inertia to make a phone call and hope somebody who knows what they're talking about answers the phone. So let's pretend that happens. Who in this company is going to pick up the phone? Every single person raised their hand. I'm like, oh my God, I would hate when the phone rang because it would like disrupt my thought process, or in this case, they were working with patients. So it would disrupt that really important, compassionate, supportive, intelligent interaction. And it's like when the phone would ring, it would totally trigger them. And it's like, oh, I hope it's someone else who's going to get it. And then somebody would, I'm like, who's most likely to get the phone? So anyway, we did this. The ball of yarn went to every single employee before a prospect become a client. I'm like, we need a little streamlining of the processes here. And we did it in like 45 minutes, shazam. So
And
it's
how much was the ball of yarn? Like $1.99, right?
$1.99. And it's like companies wait until it's too late for services like you're talking about to go through the Ignite method. When you're not reaching your revenue goals, that's when you need to know that there's conversations that are happening within your team that you're not privy to. That's when you know it's like, how do I help them maximize and optimize who they can become to succeed to get the revenue that we're looking for, to inspire the organization, which then inspires the customers who are attracted to you for that reason. So let me ask you this, Beth. Here we have these amazing people, and they may be doing the best job they possibly think they can. How do they know? What's the signal to go, you know what, I really can do more than this. I feel like I'm overwhelmed and overworked, but if I just had somebody like Beth help me reflect and light that spark and build the fire, fan the flames, create that glow and pass the torch. What is the signal to say, I need to reach out to somebody like Beth?
Interesting. Thanks for asking. But I think one of the things is if you are a leader who has a lot of pressure on your shoulders, which I think actually every leader has right now.
Right.
If you have a team and you need to make big things happen, honestly, you're a candidate for the Ignite method. If you're trying to make big things happen, I had a person recently who's leading a team in all the uncertainty that we're all experiencing right now and doesn't even know if the business will exist in X number of months because of the economic downturn. And so she would have naturally said, this isn't for us. I got to talking to her. She was going to talk to her team about something challenging. And I said, tell me about what your team's been doing lately. And she was telling me. And you know what I heard? I heard heroic efforts. If you are a mother who's at home working and you have little kids on Zoom or not, and you are meeting with clients, you are doing something heroic. And we went through person by person and what they were doing that was heroic. We didn't name it anything. She then went and talked to her team and talked to them about what she'd seen in them. They became so inspired. They were writing things about what their levels of inspiration that they were experiencing for their clients that were surprising and extraordinary. So anybody who's under tremendous pressure, who has a team who's under tremendous pressure, who wants to make something big happen, give us a call. We can help you. It's simple. It's practical. It's not complicated. It won't take time off out of your day. And we can get you in shape pretty quickly.
So how does somebody contact you, Beth?
So I have a website called the Ignite Method Coach, ignitemethodcoach.com. Go there, go to the contact page, fill something out, shoot it over to us, and we'll see if you're a candidate. And we've got a couple of things coming along that could be very helpful and cost effective.
Awesome. So I will put the link below. And if you're somebody who's feeling like you can unleash your own potential to optimize your performance and the performance of your team. So it's sort of counterintuitive. If you are overworked, what you should do is go to theignitemethod.com, TheIgniteMethod. No, spell it out for us.
It's ignitemethodcoach.com. I'm sorry, Michelle. I made it a little more complicated. Ignite Method Coach.
So I want to spell it out for people.
IgniteMethodCoach.com.
And is the word "the" in there or no?
It's not.
Okay, great. IgniteMethodCoach.com, and reach out to Beth and see if this is the right way for you to actually take the overwhelm off your plate and be inspired yourself. And as an inspired leader, you will be inspiring the people who you lead. Beth, thank you so much for joining me today in Liner Notes. You offer such an amazing gift to help people.
Thank you, Michelle, for helping me spread the word about this and for sharing your platform. It's an honor to be here with you today and with the people who are listening as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mwah.